Yes, these pits are different. This is different when I normally go. I'm at a road race. MotoAmerica brings me on board when I have off weekends from Lucas Oil Pro Motocross for the Road Racing Championship. I did a video about this on the Racer X channel last year with an official weed show, but I want to do a walk and talk, which I don't normally do on my YouTube channel. Like and subscribe, just to give you an idea of when I say, man, we're having a great season, we're having great races, because you've got to focus on the positive, and that's what we have to do at motocross side. Good job today, Cam Peterson, on the box. Yep. These are the pits in American road racing these days. Now this looks quite fancy. You've got a factory Yamaha team over there that is fresh and lean, progressive attack performance Yamaha. They've got even outside sponsors, makes it sound good. This is what is Suzuki's team now. It's called Vision Wheel M4 X-Star Suzuki. Yeah, they got sponsors. There's more Yamaha support over here. This is called the Westby Racing, also attack performance Yamaha team. They get some factory Yamaha support. It all looks good when you're at this corner of the pits, but I'm going to give you a cautionary tale on American road racing and how it ended up where it is today, which is absolutely in a rebuild mode, which is unfortunate. But the reason I bring this up, even if you're not a road racing fan, is to remind you of why I'm always so positive on my videos about motocross and supercross, because this paddock right here, they have seen the other side of the moon, the dark side of the moon. They have seen what happens when factories decide to go away, the money goes away, etc., etc. And that's why I don't push for major change on the motocross and supercross side. So let me give you a brief rundown of the history here of American road racing. There was a time back in about 17, 18 years ago, the mid-2000s, motorcycle industry was booming, both dirt bike sales and street bike sales. Things were going awesome, and these pits had just as much money rolling through. There's even a famous story where Matt Mladen once went to the bosses of Suzuki and said, "You sell so many GSXRs, you should pay me what you're paying Ricky Carmichael." And apparently Suzuki said, "Good point, you're right, you get a raise." Matt Mladen, Ricky Carmichael, road racing champ, supercross, motocross champ, considered at the same level. That's where this sport was at one time. And also they were feeding riders into the even grander, even richer MotoGP World Championship. There are many legends such as Nicky Hayden and before him, Wayne Rainey, Eddie Lawson, King Kenny Roberts, that proved that Americans can win on the world stage, and they made even more money. Road racing was huge. So what happened? Well, it's a two-pronged attack. Now, quick note, quick interruption. These videos are brought to you by anti-gravity batteries. Ha-ha. I have two batteries in my hand. This one is slightly heavier, but it's about the same weight as the one that came in your bike, but it has so much juice, you could jumpstart your truck with the battery in your dirt bike. And these batteries have built-in jump starter capability, so if your battery dies, it can jump start itself. If you're like me, you don't do a lot of maintenance, you don't ride a lot, and your battery's going to die a lot, you want this one. And if you're an off-road guy, or you're racing on a muddy day, and you're going to have to crank the bike a lot, you'll never have to worry about running out of juice with this battery. Now, this one is super lightweight. This would be the choice of the likes of Eli Tomac. His Monster Energy Star Racing Yamaha team uses this battery. This would be the choice of Jason Anderson, and now Joey Savacci, who are the Monster Energy Kawasaki team for the summer at Lucas Oil Pro Motocross. These are the batteries for you. Antigravitybattery.com. So what happened? Well, it's a two-pronged attack. Back in, I think it was 2007, the AMA made a pretty smart move. I gotta say, this is a great concept. The president of the AMA at the time said something that makes sense, which is that the rule makers for a sport, the referees essentially, even on their best day, are controversial. So if the AMA is trying to be a rider advocacy group, hey, pay us money every year to join us, be part of our group, being the referees and getting fans angry with rule calls and things like that, it's probably not the greatest way to make people want to join your organization and be a rider advocate. So the president, thank you. So the president of the AMA at the time said, look, we're going to sell all professional racing off. We cannot be both the referee and also the good guys that you want to join. We understand that. So they sold all the racing off. All the major racing series had multiple bidders and people that wanted it, and all those rumors of how it was going to go. And then I believe it was 2008 that they announced that it would actually be Daytona Motorsports Group, which was a subsidiary of NASCAR, actually owned by Jim France, part of the France family that operates NASCAR. They bought all the series, I think except Supercross. That was not involved, but that included motocross and flat track, I think hill climb, ATV motocross. But the real thing that they wanted was this. They wanted road racing. They had a vision of how they could make American road racing, which was already pretty successful, even bigger, which brings me to the whole point of this. I will get a lot of suggestions from fans saying the promoters of motocross and supercross should do X, they should try this, they should try that. Well, DMG tried a lot of things to try to make AMA Superbike go even bigger. A lot of things about leveling the playing field and trying to make the rules such that a variety of teams and riders could win, things like that. I'm not a super road racing expert, but that's the general gist of what they were trying to do. But as they were coming up with these controversial ideas, at the same time, the economy tanked. So then you have these factories who are trying desperately to save money, and they've got a sanctioning body that was not making rule changes that they liked. The sanctioning body pushed too hard, too far, and the manufacturers looking to save money anyway, and the majority of them left. They just left these pits. They left these pits. Now here's the problem. There hasn't been a rebuild from the factory status in these pits because people at the same time just don't buy those types of bikes anymore. There's this famous story, kind of like the Mladen deal, where I think at one point, and by the way, bike sales are like this unbelievably closely guarded secret in this industry, and I'm not exactly sure why. We can find out how many iPhones Apple sells, no problem. I'm carrying a GoPro. They probably disclose how many of those they sell. But we could never publicly talk about motorcycle sales because like the earth would stop spinning if we got this top secret information out. But one story that did always leak out is that apparently Suzuki GSXR 1000, just one bike. I've heard that they used to sell more of that one bike than the entire sport bike segment combined these days. The motorcycle market has moved on. Those are not the hot sellers that they were back in the 1980s and the 1990s. We've seen big success in adventure bikes and dual sport bikes and naked bikes or retro style bikes. But the road racing style bike is not as popular as it was. So you have manufacturers who were needing to save money at the time, and even that the money has come back and the economy turned around after the 2009 crisis, they still never picked back up the sales like they used to, where dirt bike sales kind of went back up. And they were mad at the promoter. And that happened, the series essentially died. I think by 2014, the series was dead. The AMA Superbike series ceased to exist. Enter MotoAmerica, and big thanks to Wayne Rainey, the multiple-time world champion, and his connections in Europe. I did not know this. This is why this series is here. It is because Dorna, who runs MotoGP, essentially said, hey Wayne, help us out, dude. We need another Nicky Hayden. We want Americans in MotoGP. If there is not an American road racing series, we're never going to end up with American road racers. We want to be a global championship with Australians and Brits and Italians and Spaniards who usually dominate. So that's why MotoAmerica came to be. That's why it's called MotoAmerica. It's kind of like the American version of MotoGP. So they've been in a rebuild mode. And I'm not just saying this because I'm wearing the shirt and they paid me to work this weekend, but from what everybody tells me, from when this series started, which I believe was 2015, through now, the rider counts have gone up, the spectator counts have gone up. The hope is build it and they will come. Now you did see, good job. Oh, let your hair down. You get to lay your hair down. It's Jake Gagne dominating. Good stuff. Dominated the weekend. Yeah, that looks like a legit factory team, and I believe Jake Gagne, who's your defending Superbike class champ and won the races this weekend here in Washington State, I believe he gets paid just like a factory rider would, you know, if it was the equivalent Eli Tomac for Yamaha on the motocross and supercross side. But that's about it. That's about it. They haven't come back in spades. The other team I pointed out was the Suzuki team. Look, I think we all know Suzuki's not spending money on racing like it did back in those Matt Mladen, Ricky Carmichael days. Ducati has a team, but that is somewhat privately funded. They have Ducati factory support, but I believe the family that owns that team is helping provide some of the funding to make that happen. People are waiting, hoping, praying that someday factories come back. We all have this vision that you know, motorcycling will become mainstream and there'll be so many outside sponsors that you won't need to have factories. That was like the dream we had back in the 90s when NASCAR was blowing up. I wouldn't actually say that we ever got to that point, even in Supercross. Yeah, we get the energy drinks, but let's be honest, the factories rule the roost. They're the ones willing to lose tons of money funding teams, and that's why Eli Tomac and Jason Anderson and Ken Roczen and all these guys are being paid millions of dollars to race. It hasn't come back here. So this is the pot of gold that everyone is chasing. They gotta hope that the pot of gold someday exists. Hey Caleb, in motocross and supercross, it's obvious. You see Ken Roczen and Jason Anderson and Eli Tomac, and you know it's there. And yes, there are parents that try way too hard and spend way too much and push their kids too hard to try to get to that pot of gold at the end of the rainbow, but that is at least the same pyramid that every sport has. Tons of people try to make the NFL. At the very, very top, a handful of them make millions of dollars. Tons of people try to become baseball players. At the very top, a handful of them make millions of dollars. The percentage is probably the same. Fewer people try racing dirt bikes, fewer people make money on dirt bikes, more people try to More people make money playing baseball, but more people try to make money playing baseball. The tough part about American road racing is that that pot of gold isn't there right now. And there's a hope, obviously, that somehow they can revive this. I think a lot of the hope actually goes with the different types of bikes, like I said, since sport bikes don't sell like they used to. Roland Sands, you probably heard of him, does a hooligan series where they run like wild looking naked bikes that barely look like they should be in a road racing track, but it's actually pretty fun, and those bikes are more like the ones that they actually sell these days. And then a big thing was the Bagger series, where they take big Harley type bikes and take them out on a road racing track, and that's been pretty popular too. They're trying all the combinations in the hope to develop that talent, but to develop that talent, you got to give them that pot of gold to chase. And road racing finds itself in a very, very tough spot, despite the efforts of MotoAmerica to do all the right things, put the races on TV, have really first-class events. I mean, everything I had on the TV production I worked this weekend was at the same level as we have in motocross and supercross. They're just waiting for that audience, and more importantly, I think they're waiting for that industry buzz, right? Because we know that the motorcycle world, the small little niche that we're in, they live and die on what happens at every Saturday night at a supercross, and they talk about it. And here, these guys are trying to get back on that radar. So that's the cautionary tale, everybody. The promoters tried to do something radical. They did rules that the factories did not like, and we assume that these teams will always be in these pits. On the motocross side, it's been 50 years literally of the same factory teams, like Honda and Kawasaki and Yamaha have been there since day one. It appears that they would never go anywhere. You get too radical, things turn gnarly, they leave. And then you have people spending money to race, and that's the majority of the people here. They're spending money hoping that someday this thing takes back off and they'll be in the right place at the right time. So American road racing is a cautionary tale. That's my video, everybody. Be careful. Sometimes the best change is not making any changes at all. 50 years of stability in the pits for any motorsport series in the world would wish for something like that.